In the last video, we talked about the shadow work and how it can help you understand the relationship between you and the addiction that you're trying to break. And after understanding the relationship, now it's time for action. Now we take action towards breaking the loop, and we're going to be taking it in the most effective way possible for each individual. It's by recognizing your own execution pattern. Execution pattern is basically what you do properly, correctly, in a sequence, in an order. It's how you do things. I'm not talking about survival. Getting a job or getting in relationships or whatever, it gets you the experience, but it doesn't forge the execution pattern properly. And so the execution pattern is how you do things in the most beneficial way for you, that gives you the skills that you want, that gives you the knowledge that you need, that takes you wherever you want to go by putting yourself in situations and positions where you execute at your best. You already know that most of the methods that are on YouTube for doing anything at all work. It's just sometimes when you apply them, they don't just apply to you, right? The reason for that is every person has a nervous system that is equipped with different levels of tolerance to anything, and therefore when you want to do certain thing, you might have you may not have the tolerance of the guidance that's getting to you. Now, to understand properly what I'm talking about, I need you to listen carefully. All methods that you see to do anything at all, whether it was motivation, whether it was let's say a plan, a map, anything, they all work. It's just it works for different people, and it probably doesn't work for you or works for you depending on your execution pattern. That's why, for example, some people succeed just like I did. Like I quit smoking almost 11 months ago. I'm going to continue a full year in the next month. I did that cold turkey, which has a very low success rate, and at the same time, it's not that common to do cold turkey successfully and complete a year. It's just very rare, statistically speaking. And so I achieved that because that's my execution pattern. That's what worked for me. And so that becomes my reference point because I done it successfully. And if, of course, each person have their own accomplishments that they can clearly remember. And I want you to tap into this moment where you were very successful and very proud of yourself, and start with your shiny moment. Observe it and be very open-minded about it. See the surroundings. Who was with you? The timing, what happened before it, what happened after it, based on what that decision was made. Was it a decision or an impulse? And so you start to notice certain patterns that appear repetitively. The first thing that I found about execution patterns is some people do solo, some people do groups. Now, generally speaking, some people thrive on their own, completely alone, or along with some tools, maybe guidance, maybe detachment, maybe something like that. Some people thrive on group setting. For example, a community, sometimes it is a coach or a mentor, sometimes it's a rival. Some people like to feel secure and actually seek help. Some people feel like, let's do a group, let's meet up together. Let's do this and do that in a group setting. And you start to see it personally in your timing. For example, I remember when I was in the gym, I went the first time ever to the gym when I was in my teen years, 14 or so. I went with a friend. And that friend, we used to play together, but you kind of feel like you are kind of forcing yourself into it. The gym was weird for me back then, so I didn't fit in. So my friend was there, okay, and he was all about hype and let's go together, and he was energetic, but he didn't have much interest in the gym to begin with. He was just having fun. But for me, after he left the gym, I continued on my own going to the gym. And then I kept going on the gym on my own later on in my life. And now every run I do it alone. I tried once to accompany my ex-wife to run with me. It didn't work out and I procrastinated. It's like when I have someone who does sports with me, I just get their energy and I just sit down. I just calm down. So then what I decided is I do sports alone. That's my execution pattern. I do things alone. It's hard for me to work in teams, really. Even in jobs that I work with, I barely work in environment that requires teamwork. I solely work on like establishing systems, putting tasks, and execute those tasks. That's it. I don't socialize. It's not necessary. Maybe or on the other side of the spectrum. The second thing I found about execution patterns is the intensity. Some people go for gradual build-up. Some people go for shocking intensity. Here's what it looks like. For example, quitting smoking, let's say, right? I quit cold turkey. That's highly intense. That's a clean cut. And because it is clean cut, it is sometimes expensive. The relapse chance is higher. Some people work with the gradual setup. For example, tapering or using vapes and then quitting completely or stuff like that. Failure here is what determines how you do things. Like I mentioned, when you do clean cut, for example, your chance of failing is high. Then it becomes about repetition. I talked about it in my previous videos about quitting smoking. I failed at quitting smoking cold turkey at least 10 times within 1 month. In March, it is exactly like these times in last year. I failed 10 times. I bought packs. I gave the rest to my friends. I broke a lot of packs in half. I did everything. But my brain goes binary. It doesn't go like take it easy, slowly, step by step, etc. For me, that's a half measure. That's how my body reads it. And therefore, whenever I try to control it or contain it, it just fails. Right? Now, I'm talking about chemical addictions here. Sometimes the emotional stuff needs like a different strategy. We'll talk about that later. But for our purpose in this section, what matters here is that you notice the intensity in everything you do. For example, in running, people usually go for 2 metrics when they are starting out running. They either measure time, meaning I will run for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, as much as I can run, or they measure how much kilometers or miles can I run before I fully collapse. And I tend to do the latter. And you notice yourself, you either go for time compressed execution or result oriented execution. So it's either you do high output in short time or you do huge input in a longer time. That's a part of your execution pattern. That's how you notice the intensity in what you do. That's why cold turkey worked for me, because I want to do high volume and I cared way more about the result, more than doing it gradually over longer time, over like stamps. I don't feel like it, because I am so hungry to the result that I want to force the result regardless of how it comes. Does it make sense? But the reality of, for example, I mentioned quitting smoking a lot, but that's my biggest recent accomplishment. I'm so proud of it. And statistics agree. The method that I used has a high failure rate. Not only that, but actually doing it gradually has a way higher chance of not just quitting smoking, but also stay smoke-free for at least a year. Statistically, that's the numbers. But remember, each person has different nervous system, and therefore each person has different reaction to information. And speaking of information, the third thing that I noticed about execution patterns is that how you learn and apply what you learned. Some people, for example, read first and try. Some people listen to audiobooks. Some people want to see slides, videos, talking head. Some people do the opposite. They try first and then get information. Notice yourself, for example. Do you like to listen to stories? Do you like to read a physical paper or an iPad? Also, is someone talking? Is someone telling you what you need to do? Would you like to get a step-by-step guide? Would you like to get a long, boring text? I do the long, boring text. Do you use notes? Physical notes that you stick on your desk? Do you use like the Google Notes, for example? Do you use reminders? When you're planning your gym routine, do you use a tracker? Do you upload to a calendar? Do you record what you did? And so you start to notice that there are different things that you've done before. Sometimes they overlap. That makes sense because we are, as humans, like to discover more about ourselves. And that's what's cool about humanity in general. There is so much things to try. If one thing doesn't work, you can try another. But usually, when you go back to your shiny moments where you performed at your best at certain events or accomplished certain result, you will notice clearly that there is a pattern that you execute at. That's how your body learned to perform. Then when you take the shiny moment and the elements of it, right? The timing, the intensity, and the learning and application method. When you take these together, analyze them, you start to see how you actually succeeded in doing some things that you unintentionally, you think, or by luck, did. But here is something important. Usually events overlap because you have a life, you have friends, you interacted with friends, you learn information, you applied, you avoided certain things, stuff happened to you. It depends. And here's where I need you to be careful. If you mix a lot of concepts together, you might get a little bit lost before you find your way out later on. And I want to save you time. For example, let's talk about rivalry. It's a good way to actually thrive and become better at anything, right? But in my personal life, for example, I had two best friends before, right? The first one back in 2012, 13, something like that. We were rivals at playing Tekken. If you're old enough, you remember this game. So basically, he beat the shit out of me. I wasn't good at the game at first, but when we got like a better friendship together, I started training intentionally to beat him every time. And what happened later on is that I improved a lot, and we actually became rivals. And we kept fighting day in, day out, and it transferred to other games, and it also transferred to playing table tennis. But when that friend is gone, I kind of lost interest in playing video games with friends. So the conclusion here is that, yes, I can thrive on rivalry, but for bonding with people, not to execute what I want to execute at. So I use rivalry socially, to socialize with people, not intentionally having a rival to compete against, to thrive in what I am competing at. Sometimes it is more about sharing and talking and having support rather than just executing as a team or unifying vision around something. Sometimes it's just status. And that's okay. There is no shame in that. It's the nervous system reacting to the orders of the brain, basically. And it's finding its way through this execution pattern. But when you learn it properly and when you notice yourself, you start to do it intentionally. Now, my execution pattern is if you combine everything, so my execution pattern becomes like this. I am a solo operator. I execute in short time and high intensity. And I achieve that by trying and then learning. And my learning consists of long, boring text. I don't enjoy watching videos. I don't enjoy lists. I open emails more than I open YouTube. That's my execution pattern. I'd rather to get the information I want on email, written in long text, rather than seeing it in a video or getting it in an audiobook or anything like that. That's my execution pattern. That's why I hurt my knee when I was doing very long runs, because I try, I learn. That's my execution pattern. And the more I practice it, the better I become at it. And I use it for other things. For example, that's why I'm using it and now I'm using it to fight porn. I'm also failing at it. It's shameful to admit, but it's happening. That's real. I'm also lately have been failing at containing binge eating. But this also needs a clean cut. The more I am failing, the more I am learning, and the execution becomes just a matter of time. It's implanted already. I understand my relationship. Remember, I want you to watch the first video first to understand the relationship between you and the addiction, so it becomes containable. It becomes, you understand the problem. And then with the execution pattern, you can design your system to crush it. Does it make sense? But I'm talking about failing a lot. So sometimes failure is just part of the equation. So how do we prepare for a relapse? Well, that's the topic of the next video. Here's what I want from you in this video. I want you to revisit the moment that you were proud of yourself the most, when you did things exceptionally well, and analyze it in the same way that I explained to you. And I promise you, by the end of it, you may not break your addiction today, but you will be making a step forward toward it. And the next video will be your shield to protect yourself from shame and guilt when you relapse. After it, you will get up, you will become stronger, you will become wiser, and the addictions will have no room in your life ever again. I quit drinking sugar consistently daily 10 months ago. 11 months ago, I quit smoking cold turkey and I'm clean till this day. And I quit coffee exactly 3 weeks ago and I haven't got a sip. Well, I actually made a small cup to see if it's actually something I need. I figured out, I want not to drink coffee again in the morning. It's not for me, honestly. And also contained binge eating and pornography for a huge extent. And I'm on the way to continue losing weight and keep my sports consistent. That's it for me in this video. Stay safe and take care.